Hi everyone, how are you doing? So great to see you all here. I've got such a big thing to talk about today. I just want to say that there is a trigger warning on this video. I am going to be talking about some things that are a bit sensitive and some people might not like it or might be triggered by it as well. So if there's anyone who has experienced any form of like sexual assault or sexual abuse, please keep scrolling if it's something you're not dealt with, respectfully. But if you're open to hearing about it or seeing what kind of support is out there, feel free to sit back and watch this video. It'll be great to hear your views and opinions at the end of it. And yeah, I just thought, let me just share my own views and opinions, my experiences. I just left a feedback session that is aimed at understanding Black experiences from their service users when it comes to accessing psychosexual therapy. So it was actually hosted by a representative from, the NHS mental health services, specifically SLAM, and I just really wanted to normalize these kind of conversations because yes, whilst Next Gen is here to, be change makers, it's not only in the corporate world. We want to look at all the different areas, and I think it's very important for us to even, look at the healthcare system, put that underneath the magnifying glass, and just to see what are some room for improvement, what kind of best practices are out there. So I'm going to just share a little bit of context just so you understand, my reason for participating in this. So back in 2021, 2022, I had been experiencing like some, chronic pains. And there was one day, let me get my words out. There's one day where I was like throwing up, having these pains all at the same time. I was just like, what is going on? Because this is not food poisoning. This isn't anything that I've experienced before. There was a whole load of other symptoms behind it, and someone just said, just reach out to your GP. So even that, I didn't even think to call 999. I just was like, let me just reach out to my GP. So red flag number one. So I reached out to my GP and nobody could tell me what it is. I think I saw probably like 3 or 4 different GPs before I met the gentleman that actually suggested I see a psychosexual therapist, something I didn't even think even existed, right? So long story short, I had some trauma. There's been obviously sexual abuse, sexual assault, and from childhood right up into my adult life. And I always thought because it didn't make me cry, because I didn't feel anything when I spoke about it, it didn't bother me. Little did I know that I was working in survival mode. I was literally on autopilot, banging out work, doing all these different tasks without actually paying attention to my inner child. And when I realized that something was going wrong was when I had, my initial first call. So after I think I was waiting probably about 6 months before my referral went through to the hospital. I remember the first call that I had with the therapist, and it caught me off guard because I didn't know they were calling. It was just something had happened. I think it was like August, probably 2022 or 2022 in August. And I remember I just picked up the phone and this lovely lady, she said, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm just calling to, process your referral. She introduced herself and she was so nice, absolutely lovely. And she went on to be my therapist, which was absolutely fantastic. But she had to gather some data. So they have to gather some data, put together a report and send it off so we get the funded hours, because psychosexual therapy wasn't something that, well, at the time when I was doing it, it wasn't something you could just self-refer. You had to be referred by a GP. So I couldn't even know what she asked me, but she asked me this one simple question and floods of tears just came out. Like historically crying. And I proceeded to give her like a high level overview of the things that I had experienced. And, she was very reassuring. She was letting me know, what the process is going to look like. And I kid you not, when she sent over the report, for me to confirm the words of the stuff that I'd said. When I read it, I was just like, oh my goodness. I was like, I completely forgot that I was even looking at myself in that moment. The first thing that came to me is, oh my gosh, it sounds like a serious case review, And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's normally when something, when there is like a missed opportunity for a child or a vulnerable person, and there's all these different opportunities for it to be prevented, but it wasn't. Anyway, so I remember, and one of the things I said, oh my gosh, poor child. And then it dawned on me that poor child was me. I was just like, oh my goodness, I hadn't actually sat down and looked at the data. I hadn't actually sat down and looked at all of the things that had transpired. When I realized that, I was just like, whoa, this is a lot, Anyway, I had to then wait for it to go through to be accepted, and then fast forward a couple of months after, well, probably like 1 month after or something, then I began my sessions. Now, these sessions were absolutely fantastic, okay? I always had like preconceptions about mental health because growing up in my culture, and I can't speak for everybody, but growing up, so I come from a Caribbean background, and I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, but for many of the generations, even to this day, within my family, we don't really talk about mental health. Mental health isn't something that we really advocated for, or it's not something that we discussed. It's just like you get on with it. There are like a couple of family members who have obviously taken their mental health seriously, which is absolutely fantastic, and I love that. But obviously growing up, when I needed it the most, it wasn't something that we saw. And the one time where we really did need that intervention, there was nothing to prevent it. It was just like, straight, you're sectioned, right? So obviously I'm gonna keep that person's identity confidential, but there was no preventative measures in place. And I think because I saw that and how traumatic that whole experience was, I never thought that I would ever access any mental health services, because I was, one, scared to even share the thoughts I was having, scared to share how I was feeling, scared to see what might happen if I were to say these things. And there was a lot of PTSD, a lot of stuff I had to kind of process. But whilst I'm trying to process those stuff, I was trying to obviously survive in this world, and it was really difficult. There was a lot of stuff, and plus I had a lot of stress and trauma at work, in the workplace, especially when it came to like racial discrimination. It was just like an added stress. So everything was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, until in one of my sessions, I'm going to say probably like midway in the session, I had a complete meltdown. Like, I remember I was even signed off from work because it was just like my volcano just exploded, right? It was just too much. And one thing I really loved about the therapist, was that even when I was having those big meltdowns, those big outbursts, she was so good at grounding me. And it wasn't just ground me and then the session's over. She was giving me various things to do in between sessions so I can continuously do the work, as opposed to just wait on the sessions. And, I found that something that was really, really useful. I remember when I was sharing, some of the racial discrimination that I was facing, she went into her own network to find me information specifically tailored for people of color, specifically women of color, in the workplace. And I found that was something that was really, really good, because whilst the service itself didn't have that information, the fact that she took it upon herself to go above and beyond to get the support that I needed, because she saw that I wasn't able to reach, let's say, self-actualization without addressing that issue, I actually commend her for that. And I do hope I get one day to meet her again, because honestly, words cannot describe how much she saved my life. I mean, I was contemplating suicide. I questioned my existence. I started to look at all of the challenges that I had faced up until my adult life. Like, school was terrible in terms of like, I was always suspended. I had a lot of behavior difficulties. Like, I really struggled with, just being contained in a classroom. I really struggled to grasp things. I know that it took me a long while to even understand what was being taught. And it was just like, if you weren't, if you didn't get it, that was it kind of thing. And honestly, looking back now, I'm just like, there were so many opportunities where my teachers could have just said, Jess, what's the root cause of this? As opposed to just suspending me straight away, or putting me on report or some sort of behavior management thing. They didn't actually try to get to the root cause. And I feel like when you're in a profession that is looking after people, being an educator, it's more than just teaching what's in the curriculum. It's about taking a step back and looking at the human side of things. How is that person developing holistically as opposed to just only academically? Anyway, so I realize how long this video is, but long story short, one of the treatments that I was offered was something called EMDR. Now, EMDR is absolutely fantastic, and I'm just going to get my notes because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but what it was basically like a psychosexual therapy method that it's all around like the eye movement, right? So it's really great for helping people to recover from like trauma, PTSD symptoms, any kind of anxiety or depression related I don't want to say illnesses, but conditions. If you have chronic pain, addiction, or any distressing life experiences. And it wasn't something I even knew was available. It's not something I've seen or heard anyone speak of. A lot of the women and even some of the men that I know have had similar experiences to me growing up, plus more, and they're completely oblivious to it. So every time I get the opportunity, I talk about this. And literally just yesterday, I was having a conversation with a lady, and I don't know how this came up, just came up, and I was just like, I can't believe it's 2025 and people don't even know this exists. We have to do more. We have to not just wait until people get into the workplace, have a meltdown and then address it, or some people who don't even get to the workplace. We have to really look at what is our preventative strategy. What are we doing for our service users? Are all of our services and solutions, are they accessible for everybody? Is there a particular demographic that struggles to access our services? And if so, it's looking at ourselves in the mirror and asking ourselves why. Why is this the way that it is? And putting in the right solutions. Like, one thing that I suggested when I was having this conversation was, you have to go into these communities. You have to break any misconceptions and build that trust. If you can't build trust with those community members, if you don't have representation, why would they open up? Why would I open up? If I have all these misconceptions growing up when it comes to like mental health, if something happens to you, straight medication, if that's my mindset, why on earth would I want to reach out and access support? It just doesn't make sense. And I was looking at some data because I really want people to understand how important equal access is when it comes to mental health services, specifically if you come from an underrepresented group. So I was having a look at the Mind, and it was saying that 1 in 3 people from various radicalized communities were unsure where to start and what kind of support they needed to seek when it came to mental health. That's bizarre. 1 in 3 people. So if you just look around in a room, if there's more than 3 of you, at least one of you would be thinking that, And then there was another statistic that I saw where it said, 60% were unsure if their mental health issues were serious enough to even need support. So there's a lot of us playing the guessing game here, and I know that's not just for one particular demographic, but I really want you to understand, like, there's so much data out there to highlight that there is a massive gap when it comes to these communities and, mental health support and services, And then there was another one where it said, 47% have personal fears and doubts around mental health services, including being unable to find the relevant support. It's right there. Like, I'll put the link to the article in the comment section, but it's literally right there. And then it went on to say that Black people are 4 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. 4 times. Do you know how crazy that is? Sorry, I shouldn't even say that, but do you know how bizarre that is? Like, make it make sense. It just does not make sense to me. And, you know, growing up, when I had my family member had been sectioned multiple times, every time I'd go there, I would see so many people from ethnic backgrounds. And so why is there such an overrepresentation here? And then even in the prisons, why is there such an overrepresentation here? Like, why are we getting it wrong still? It just doesn't make any sense. We're so quick to put a plaster over mental health issues, so quick to say, oh, you need antidepressants. Don't get me wrong, yes, there are some people that definitely need that. That's between you and, you know, your physician. But why are we not looking at how do we prevent this? Don't you think if we actually put in the right preventative solutions from the start, we save time, we save money, we save energy, do you know what I mean, in picking up the pieces later on? You know, I really recommend that anyone who is going through, you know, a difficult time in their life, or maybe has some sort of traumatic experience, I highly recommend EMDR. I'll put the link in the chat so you can see what that actually looks like. People who've experienced any sort of, like, you know, sexual abuse or sexual assault that was quite traumatic, psychosexual therapy, like, it is absolutely amazing, and it changed my life. And I know that there is someone who's going to watch this video who's going through the same thing and doesn't even know where to start. And if that is you, I want you to know it gets better. I want you to know that you don't have to suffer alone. And I want you to know, if you need that support, just send me a DM, because I will signpost you, other than what's going to be in the chat. But I'm sending you all lots of love. I know this is a different kind of video, but it's something we definitely need to talk about, because even when I was looking for data, there is a lack of data when it comes to, you know, the kind of trauma that children from different ethnicities face. Right, we know that they're abused and all that stuff, but it's not broken down into ethnicity, so it's hard to find out. Yes, all children need help, but I'm trying to look at what's the missing link. Why is there no data on this? You know, and even there was another statistic where it said that in the criminal justice system, with women particularly, there was, I can't remember the number, I'm going to find it, but majority of the inmates had child abuse in their background, or some sort of traumatic experience. So that was a direct link, you know. And I just feel like there are a lot of women around currently. I know it's, you know, Women's History Month, and this should be, you know, really inspiring, but something in my heart is saying that there are a lot of women who have been silenced because of their traumatic experiences, as well as many other people from different genders. But now is the time for you to break that seal. Use your voice, because your voice is going to save another young girl, another person, okay, who's going through the same thing that you're going through and just doesn't know where to start. So I'm using my voice today just to share this, shed some light on this, and I honestly hope that someone somewhere who's watching this will get the support that they need. Sending you lots of love. Until next time, bye.